Hi everyone, welcome back to another installment of Dilly's Do-It-Yourself tutorial. Today I'm going to demonstrate for you how to subtract mixed numbers. Much of what you've already learned will be the same, but there's a few things that are different. So watch closely and you'll be a pro at this in no time. I will be showing you 3 different examples of problems you may encounter on your homework. Each one's a little different. The first one is an example of subtracting mixed numbers with no regrouping. Let's use the example of 2 4/5 minus 1 3/7. We will first find the LCD by listing the multiples of 7 and 5. Okay, so I have written out my multiples for 7 and 5, and I have found that my new common denominator will be 35. I'm now going to create my equivalent fractions using the denominator 35. So I've set it up with the new denominator of 35, and you can see that I have transferred my whole numbers over so I don't forget to subtract those as well. Now I need to go through and remember to multiply to find out what my new numerator is going to be. So I'm going to start with the top and I say 5 times 7 is 35. So 4 times 7 is 28. And then I do 7 times 5 is 35. So 3 times 5 is 15. And then I'm going to go ahead and subtract those, and I'm going to come up with 13. And the denominator stays the same. And then I subtract my whole numbers. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now, 13 is a prime number, so I know that this cannot be simplified, and that is my final answer. So that wasn't so bad. Now the next one we're going to do is an example with regrouping, and we're going to use 3 3/4 and 1 7/8. Here we go. Okay, so here we have the problem set up, and just like before, we have our denominators that are not the same, so we need to create our least common multiples by listing the multiples for 8 and 4. Well, that was easy. As long as you start with the bigger number and keep thinking about the smaller number as you go, you should be able to come up with it pretty quickly, and our new denominator will be 8. I'm going to go ahead and set up the problem. Okay, so I transferred the whole numbers over, set up the new denominators. Now I'm going to multiply to find out what my numerators are. Here I multiplied by 2, so I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2, and this will be 6. Here I simply multiplied by 1, so multiply that by 1, and I'm going to get 7. Now, this is where we need to stop and look, because we certainly have a problem. If you have 6 apples, you cannot take 7 away. So we need to borrow. And we're going to borrow from our whole number on top, which is the 3. We need to take 1 away from the 3 and make that a 2. Now, what are we going to do to make that into a fraction? Well, we know that we can represent whole numbers in fractions by making the number on top the same as the number on the bottom. It can be anything: 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, 9/9. All of those equal 1 whole. In this case, we are going to represent our 1 whole as 8/8 because we don't want to go through the process of coming up with like denominators again. So we're going to take away the whole from the 3 and show it as 8/8. And we are going to add that on to the 6/8. I have added the 8/8 onto the 6/8 to equal 14/8. I have then moved my 7/8 over so that it is aligned under my 14/8. And now I will subtract those two fractions. 14 minus 7 equals 7. The 8 stays the same, and then remember to subtract your whole numbers. We now have 2 minus 1, which equals 1. You still need to look and see if your fraction needs to be simplified or not. 7 is a prime number, so this fraction does not need to be simplified, and you are done. Okay, well, that certainly is a lot of work. If you got that, good for you, because that is a lot of work. Okay, now, let's get rid of that. Let's give this a try. My final example shows what to do when you are subtracting a whole number and a mixed number. So let's use 4 minus 3 4/5. Here we go. Okay, here we go. We're going to use 4 minus 3 4/5. So can you guess what we're going to have to do here? We can't take 4/5 away from nothing. That's right, we're going to have to borrow. So we're going to borrow from our whole number, the 4, and we're going to make it a 3. Now, we have to represent that whole that we took away, and we're going to represent it as a fraction. All fractions can be represented as a whole by simply having the numerator and denominator the same. 4/4, 5/5, 6/6. We don't want to have to go through the process of coming up with like denominators, so we're going to look at the denominator that's already being used, which is a 5. And we're going to create our fraction as 5/5. This is the one whole that we just took away. Yes, that is my attempt at creating a big 1, even though it barely looks like a 1, but yes. Okay, that is our 1 that we took away. Now, we are going to subtract, because we can now take 5 and the 4 and subtract 4 minus 5, and we will get 1. The 5 stays the same as our denominator. 3 minus 3 is 0. We don't have to write that. And we are done. Our final answer is 1/5. I hope you found this helpful. Please come back and look at the video anytime you need help. You can fast forward through parts of it. And good luck. See you next time.